we're going to be doing a YouTube Q&A. Obviously, it's for YouTube. It's where this fucking video is going. Just start it over. Fuck, I don't even know where I left off. My battery has died so many times, guys. I don't even know where I left off. Let's just go there. What is up, guys? Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, March 3rd. So technically 20 weeks and 3 days out. We're gonna count this video as 21 weeks out. The check-ins I'm gonna show you, a little physique update. They were actually taken on Sunday, this past Sunday, and Saturday would have been 21 weeks out. So super excited for that. Finally doing a little Q&A. I have a long list of questions that I'm really excited for. It's super cool how many people are supporting me or want to get to know like more about this process, you know, are rooting me on from either in person or social media. It's just really cool. I feel like I've talked about this on Instagram before. For so long, I kept my fitness life, you know, what I love, separate from my regular Instagram because I was like not embarrassed by it, but I felt like it would be annoying, people seeing it and just all the posts. And it's just kind of cool to see how many people are interested in what I'm doing and asking like all these fucking questions and are just cheering me on. So it's really cool and I'm really excited to dive into some of these with you guys. I've got Jax here hanging out with us tonight, and yeah, we'll get started. So cue physique update. Okay, so our protocols, how they have changed. So far for training days, calorie-wise, we are down to 175 grams of protein, 275 grams of carbs, and 50 grams of fat. For rest days, we are at 175 grams of protein, 175 grams of carbs, and 60 grams of fat. We've been slowly chipping away the past few weeks. Chris wants to pick up the rate of loss a little faster, so we've been dropping calories a little bit every week. Our average weekly weight has been trending down about a pound-ish, you know, give or take, every week. So we're heading in the right direction. We just want to pick it up a bit. As for cardio, I'm just walking my dog Jax 20 minutes twice a day. I was already doing that, but once it got a little colder, time varied from 10 minutes to 20, depending how I felt about the weather. So the only change that we made was to make it 20 consistently across the board so that we could track that. But yeah, really nothing else has changed. I'm still eating the same exact foods for my full day of eating video. You know, that's my cardio. I drink over a gallon of water a day. And yeah, that's where we're at. Everything's going well. I'm feeling really good. You know, just trusting the plan and this whole process. So let's get this Q&A started. There's a long list of questions here. So while we're already on the topic of nutrition, I'm going to jump down the list here and start with the first question. How do you approach nutrition? So Chris assigns me my macronutrient goals. Obviously, like I was talking about before, if you don't know, that's your carbs, your fats, your proteins. He doesn't just say hit this amount of calories because we need to get more specific and give a goal for those macronutrients, especially when it comes down to, you know, building muscle, losing body fat. It's not just about calories in, calories out. What matters is what those calories are. So even back before I started working with Chris in August, that's the approach I took with myself. I feel like the biggest misconception with macro tracking is people think it means you're just gonna fit a bunch of random shit into your diet, and that's not what we're doing at all. My goal is to eat primarily whole, nutritious foods, make sure I'm covering all my bases when it comes to getting lean quality protein in, getting, you know, plenty of fiber from leafy green vegetables, getting 3 to 4 servings of veggies a day, 2 to 3 servings of fruit. You want your diet to still be well-rounded, and you want to cover all your bases when it comes to macros and micros. So it's not just a free-for-all of fitting crap into your diet. But at the same time, the nice thing with tracking macros is you have a better relationship with food, in my opinion. You understand how nutrition works, how macros work, obviously, and you can fit things in and be flexible when you see fit. I don't feel like if I'm ever craving anything, I have to continue to fight that craving because I can't have it. I can fit it in my nutrition within reason, address the craving, and be done with it, you know? I think I was a little more flexible with this before we started prepping, because if I just wanted to make tacos, you can easily fit tacos into those macronutrients, you know what I mean? Whereas now I feel like I'm more strict and consistent with myself just because I want to make sure I'm covering every single base possible. Not saying you can't make progress without adding flexibility into a prep, but the more consistent you are, the better off you're going to be. So if I can eat the same exact thing every single training day and every single rest day, progress is going to be a little more linear than if I made a pizza and fit that in my macros and had all that dairy. My weight might spike the next day. It doesn't mean I gained weight overnight, but just, you know, kind of explaining why I try and keep things a little more consistent. So I'm going to combine these two. It is things you are dreaming the most about when it comes to prep and competing, and I just lost it. Most excited for about your competition. So I think when it comes to, well, I guess prep and competing, just the fact that I'm doing both of them is super exciting just because it's something I wanted to do for so long. So the act of doing both is the most exciting part. When it comes to prep, I'm really excited to be at that point where we start to see changes on a weekly basis. Every check-in with Chris, I'm gonna be like, holy shit, do you see that? I think that's just gonna be really cool. I've never cut like this before. I've never been super lean like that before, at least, you know, for a stage. I was pretty like an athletic build and lean in high school, but nothing obviously like a bodybuilding competition. So I'm really excited to be able to see that progress. When it comes to competition day, you know, I'm excited to be competing alongside my friend and teammate Kelsey. Shout out to Competitive Breed. I'm excited to have my good friend Marilyn hopefully backstage, you know, stage momming it up for us, because I'll be lost. I'm excited to have friends there supporting. I'm excited to be able to experience this, you know, my first show with Chris, with Logan. All of it's super exciting, but I think what I'm most excited for is fucking winning. And I don't mean to say that in a cocky way, but I am. I'm confident. I manifest the fuck out of this goal, taking first and novice, taking overall figure. You know, I envision it daily. I visualize, I journal, I think about it. It's just on my mind 24/7, and I know I can achieve that. If I had competed 3-4 years ago, whenever I thought I was going to, I wouldn't have been ready, and I'm so glad I didn't because it prepared me for this now. I'm prepared physically and mentally more than ever. I know it's my time. I know there's a reason that I waited to move to Tampa to meet Chris, to continue to grow, to get an injury and to overcome it, all to set me up for this journey. And I'm fucking excited because I know it's finally my time, and I can't wait to come away from stage with multiple first place trophies, you know, not only at one show but at two, both Dexter Jackson and Tampa Pro. So yeah, I'm fucking excited. That's all I can say. Okay, so advice for first timers, both competitors and lifters. I feel like lifters is a little easier to tackle. I obviously am a first time competitor, so I feel like if you ask me this question in a few months, the answer could potentially be different when I have more experience under my belt. But as for first time lifters, it can be really scary, especially as a female going into a gym, going into uncharted territory. So my biggest piece of advice there would be, don't give a shit what other people think. Don't care what you look like. If you need help, ask. If you don't want help, don't feel like you have to ask. If you're worried about what other people are thinking, or saying behind your back or whatever, if that's the case, they have an issue with themselves. That comes down to them and not you. So focus on you. Don't be so concerned about what's going on around you and what other people are doing. And my biggest piece of advice would be focus on your form. Don't feel like you need to go in there and all of a sudden start maxing out on lifts. You're going to just hurt yourself. You're going to hurt your lifts moving forward. You're not going to have good progressions. Focus on your form. It's so important for your injury prevention, for your lifting progression, for your overall health. Focus on form. That's the most important thing. You're not going to make it very far if you've got shit form and you're just continuing to overload it. First time competitors, like I said, that is myself. I am a first time competitor. So this advice could change in a few months. I feel like I could learn something else, but if we're sticking with the basics, I would say stay disciplined, know what you want and why. Is this something that you can put your all into and be, driven and disciplined, motivation aside? Pick a coach that you trust. Nothing drives me crazier than I'm in Facebook groups that are, competitor groups, and going on there and seeing people say, well, my coach has me doing this. What do you guys think? If you are doubting anything your coach says, you probably shouldn't be with them. If there are red flags in any conversation with a coach, you probably shouldn't be with them. Educate yourself and know what you're looking for, coach. Come up with your list of non-negotiables before picking a coach and interview multiple coaches. See who's going to be the best fit for you. I chose to go with Chris because I knew he was super knowledgeable. I knew he's had a lot of experience with competitors, both in, natural and non-natural federations. And I knew he was going to put my health first as a priority and do everything the right way, not just bullshit the plan and cut corners and get me there as quickly as possible, or have me take XYZ to get there and just trash my hormones and my health. I knew he was going to be the best fit for me, and I could trust him with everything in me. He could tell me to do some really dumb workout, and I would say, you know what? There's a rhyme and reason for this training session. This is going to get me where I need to be in the long run, just because I know he plans things out. I have full trust in everything he tells me, and I think that's the biggest downfall of some competitors is hiring a shit coach. You need to make sure you trust your coach. You need to make sure they know what the fuck they're doing. So I think that would be the biggest piece of advice for a first-time competitor. So for the most of you that know, I tore my ACL. I had surgery about a year ago, so I'm a year out. So this next question is the mental aspect of overcoming the fear to squat after an injury. For me, I wouldn't say that I had a huge fear of squatting or getting back in the weight room. I would say I was more eager to do those things, but I almost felt like a newbie back in the gym again. I hated being so limited. My quad size was coming back. I wouldn't say quickly, but it was more defined than most. And I was just really insecure, one, about the size difference, but two, thinking like no one knew that I was coming back from surgery, and people thinking, what the fuck is she doing in the gym? Which was why one of my biggest things was for first time lifters or anyone, don't give a shit about what people think. But besides the fact, my biggest concern was actually, and is actually, not just running, but lateral movements, cutting, plyometrics slightly, mimicking situations that would put me at risk for tearing my ACL, which is normally a quick change of direction. So I wasn't really super scared to get back in squat. I was just more so eager and impatient with the process. I understood the healing timeline. I understood how different it looks for everyone and how long that can take to get back to your pre-injury state. And I was just more so impatient on how long that process would take. Every day practicing squatting and practicing range of motion and ankle mobility in the hopes of eventually being able to do a full body weight squat again, ass to grass, and then putting a barbell on my back. It's just those little steps. I had to remind myself how long the process can take. Current workout split. So my split is, and I like to keep the days consistent because I'm OCD, but they don't always fall on these days. But I have Sunday legs, Monday upper push, Tuesday upper pull, Wednesday rest, Thursday my second push day, Friday my second pull day, Saturday rest, and repeat. Obviously push, let's start with push, is going to be primarily chest, shoulders. There's some tricep exercises. Pull is going to be obviously back, shoulders, some bicep exercises. My second push is actually primarily shoulders, but there will be some, chest exercises in there, I think 1 or 2. But I am hitting some form of shoulder exercise 3 to 4 times a week, which takes me into my next question, delt growth. Quote, how do I get them delts? So yeah, I'm obviously hitting shoulders at some point 4 times a week. When I knew I wanted to compete figure, which has been for years now, my goal was to bring up my shoulders because genetically my legs grow really easily, my quads especially. I knew I didn't need to continue to focus on that heavily. Whereas cap shoulders, wide back are also big focuses of figure, the physique, the judging criteria, what they're looking for. So I was actually training shoulders probably like 3 times a week before even starting with Chris like over a year ago. Not only do I love having or wanting cap shoulders, but because that's the judging criteria and I knew I wanted to be successful in the sport. So I was pre-planning for what my goals were before working with Chris. So volume, strategic volume, but that's where we get our shoulder growth from. Is your family into sports? Honestly, no. My family and I always joke about like being adopted because I don't know where these genetics came from. No one in my family really works out. No one in my family really played sports. My dad likes golf. My dad played tennis. My sister and I both played soccer growing up. But she's the more artistic one in the family, so I'm kind of like the oddball out when it comes to that. I played sports all my life. I grew up playing soccer. In high school, I played soccer. I ran track. I transitioned to playing lacrosse, and I actually joined the weightlifting team my senior year. And that's another question, is like how I got started. I worked out obviously throughout high school playing sports because I wanted to stay in shape for those sports and just be a better athlete. But what really made me fall in love with weight training was actually joining the women's weightlifting team in high school my senior year. My mom wouldn't let me play soccer my senior year because I was planning to go to college for lacrosse. And she said, no way in hell, you're going to get hurt playing soccer, no shot. And me being me, I can't sit still for a semester. I needed something athletic to do. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to join the weightlifting team. And I just fell in love with it. My coach, the first day, was like, are you sure you haven't done this before? When I went to go set up for my clean and jerk, and I just knew that's where I was supposed to be. It just came so naturally to me. I just felt like so at peace in the weight room. I was obsessed with the progression that I found with it. Not even physically, just the strength progression and the mental progression. It was just really exciting. And yeah, so that's how I got started with weightlifting. I had a boyfriend in high school who competed, and that's kind of what opened my eyes to what bodybuilding was. I feel like fitness on Instagram wasn't really a thing when I started working out, or at least maybe I just didn't know of it. I didn't follow people. And I went to my first competition. I was like, this is pretty fucking cool. I think I could do this. So that's kind of what got me into wanting to do bodybuilding, which I think was also a question. What made you want to start bodybuilding? So that's kind of what got me started into wanting to do that, watching him do it and go through the prep, but then also going to see one of his shows. And I was just always inspired by figure competitors. Just aesthetically, their shape is the most appealing to me. I love that you can be muscular and still feminine at the same time. It's just personally, and that's not bashing on bikini, but a big step up from what bikini is. You have to train really fucking hard. Again, not bashing on bikini, but to put on that level of muscularity that you would find in figure. And then so on for women's physique and women's bodybuilding. you just really have to bust your ass. And I think that was another really appealing aspect to me, is how hard you had to work for it. Another thing that really inspired me to start, you know, for so long I kept saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, but there's a difference between wanting to do something and thinking about doing something. You know, you like the idea of doing something, and I've talked about that on my Instagram before as well. You know, if you really want it, you're going to be all in and put in all of your effort and dedication and discipline into doing something, versus if you just like the idea of it, you're probably not going to get much done. And I think for a while I always liked the idea of it. Genetically, I could, you know, get away with having this shape that could potentially grow into something really great in figure, but I was never consistent enough. And I think the turning point for me was really over quarantine. I finally flipped the switch, but for me, I always played team sports, and in college I was injured a lot. Like 3 out of my 4 seasons of lacrosse, I was injured. And it's really hard when you're always injured and you feel like your team is always either relying on you to get back or trying to pick up the slack from you being out. And what's appealing to me with bodybuilding is how selfish of a sport it is, which sounds crazy, but it's really just you. You know, you and your coach, which, you know, I'll get into later in one of these other questions, but are a team. But other than that, no one can do the work for you. No one can sleep for you. No one can drink for you. No one can eat for you. No one can train for you. No one can make you do all those things. It really comes down to you and your desire and your discipline in getting that shit done. It's just a you versus you sport. Obviously, when it comes time for stage, you're competing against other competitors. You know, that's where the competition aspect comes into play. But every other day out of the year, it's you versus you, which to me is really motivating. I just love that aspect of it. I want to be the best version that I can be, and I want to constantly beat myself from the day before. And I think that's what really got me into wanting to do bodybuilding, is that's what encompasses that sport. You have to have that day in and day out to be successful. So that's kind of why, what drew me into wanting to do bodybuilding. And honestly, another reason is when I finished college sports, I didn't really feel fulfilled because of all my years injured, but I felt like I still needed to do something competitive. I still wanted to be an athlete and train in some way, shape, or form. And honestly, by the end of my 4 years of college lacrosse and being injured, primarily from running, I didn't really want to run anymore. But I really loved lifting, the gym. It just was my safe space. It's where I felt the most free and relaxed and me. Just like in high school, I loved progressing every day and just beating myself, and the environment. It's so calming to me. And I knew I could combine those wants and what I enjoyed doing by pursuing bodybuilding. And when I started practicing posing, and the first time I was going to get ready for a competition, of course, back then, you know, I wasn't consistent enough. I wasn't disciplined enough, but I knew I had the potential. Genetically, I know I'm made for figure. I know I can go far in this sport if I put my all into it. So that was really appealing to me, that I just felt like, yeah, that's my niche. Like, I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm going to. I know that's where I should be going, and I can be really successful if I put my mind into it. And so that's another reason that I was really intrigued and drawn towards bodybuilding, specifically the figure category. And that kind of answers, and the next question is, what is your why for competing? A lot of that falls under that category. But I truly just want to continue to be the best version that I can be. There's nothing more motivating and inspiring to know that the physique you build is solely from the work that you put into it. Like I said before, no one else can do that work for you. You can't buy it, you can't borrow it, you can't rely on a teammate to get you there. You know, there's people in the background that are helping with posing, your coach that's getting you there, you know, your support system, all these other factors, but only you can get you there. Only you can get you the final stage package, because you have to put that work in. So yeah, I really just want to be the best version that I can be, bring the best package that I can bring, beat myself every fucking day. That's my why. I want to compete, and I want to be successful, and I want to push myself to a limit that I haven't gone to before. You know, I'm breezing right now, you know, obviously it feels easier 3 weeks in, but I'm ready to push myself to the extreme. I'm ready for the grind of, you know, 8, 6, 4 weeks out where you're just dead tired and you have to truly find it in yourself to push through the end of it. I'm ready to have that. I'm ready to, you know, take myself farther than I have before. So that's what I'm excited about. Okay, this one's funny. I've learned to actually take this as a compliment. Part one of this question is, are you natural? And then part two is, how did you go about picking Federation NPC versus like a natty federation like OCB? So yes, I am natural. I used to kind of get offended by that question. Like I was thinking, do people not think that you can achieve this naturally? Is that an insult because people just assume I'm taking something? Now I just take it as a compliment because I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I am natural and I look like this. But no, 100% I am natural. I have not taken anything. I have no experience with PEDs. I couldn't even name half the shit for you. I was talking to a couple friends at the gym earlier and they were talking about clients or competitor friends or whatever taking XYZ, and it's just like right over my head. I literally didn't even start taking creatine until I started working with Jack. I just said Jax because I'm touching Jax. Until I started working with Chris. And creatine is not even a PED. It's honestly the best supplement that anyone could be taking. But my point in saying that is just to show you that I really wasn't supplementing with anything other than protein powder for pretty much ever. So yes, 100% natural, and the reasoning behind wanting to stay natural is because I want to see how far I can get genetically before ever touching that stuff. I want to see where my genetic potential lies. This is the most consistent I have been with training, with nutrition, with really tackling all assets of my life, with sleep, with hydration, with nutrition, with, you know, stress management, all the above. So if this is where I'm at now, only just starting less than a year of true consistency, where can I be in 2 years and 3 years and 4 years? I really want to see, you know, where that genetic potential lies before even thinking about touching anything. And that goes more into, you know, why I picked Chris. He is a natural competitor himself. He coaches a lot of natural competitors. And I know if anyone's going to help me get there, who's the most knowledgeable person I can think of, it's going to be Chris. As for why I picked NPC, if I'm going to compete naturally, I kind of talked about it a little bit before in a previous question, but genetically, I just think I'm lucky enough to have that shape, that if I train hard enough, strategically enough, recover well enough, you know, over X amount of years, I can have the shape required to be successful in the sport, in NPC and hopefully IFBB. When I was weighing out, you know, NPC versus WNBF and OCB or, you know, whatever other natural federations, aesthetically, I was just more drawn to NPC. And I just thought I could really be competitive just with where I'm at right now. I don't think I'll have any issue being competitive at NPC. So that's kind of why I wanted to go that route. I felt it would be more competitive for me to go NPC than OCB or WNBF. And that's not knocking anything on a natural federation. That's just my, you know, personal preference and kind of what I've always been more drawn to when you compare figure from both groups. So yeah. What keeps you motivated? And I wish I could just eliminate this word. I think it has a time and place. The problem is motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. Sometimes it won't be there and sometimes it will. And when it is there, it's awesome. And when it's not there, what's going to get you to do the things that you need to do? You need to be disciplined rather than seeking motivation. Discipline will always trump motivation. If you have a goal, a desire, or want, you need to be disciplined and driven enough to get you there. I don't always wake up and feel motivated to go walk my dog in the rain, but I know I need to get my steps in the morning and in the evening or I won't get them in. So I need to go out there and get my steps in, or I need to find a way to get my steps in. I don't feel motivated to do that, but I do it because I'm driven to achieve my goals, because I want to be fucking first. I want to bring the best package that I can bring, and that means checking all my boxes every fucking day, whether I'm motivated to do so or not. Now, currently, I feel motivated as fuck every day because I know what I'm going after. But I know in, 8 weeks when I'm on no carbs or however far out, I'm not gonna be feeling so hot every day, but I still need to check those boxes. I still need to do the things that are required in order to be successful. And that doesn't come from motivation, that comes from discipline, it comes from drive, it comes from grit, it comes from having those goals and knowing what I need to do to get them done. And, motivation isn't gonna get you there. Motivation's not gonna push you to do those things. It's every other hour of the day that there's not motivation that matters in order to achieve your goals. So I feel like this one kind of ties into that, but advice on mentality during prep or the mental aspect of bodybuilding. I think one of the hardest things when it comes to bodybuilding is the constant act of comparison. And that, that's in and out of bodybuilding. I think as females especially, we're always comparing ourselves to these societal norms and what's, portrayed as beautiful and, too manly, too muscular, too skinny, too fat, like all these things I think just comes down to we're always comparing ourselves. But in bodybuilding especially, a lot of people have body dysmorphia and they're always comparing themselves to other competitors, to pros. And I think that's the biggest thing that mentally you need to steer yourself away from. It's a super supportive community. There's no reason you can't support someone and say, I admire that physique that you have. I'm inspired by the physique that you have, but I am building my own physique. I don't want to look like XYZ pros. I want to look like the best version of myself. So I think that more people need to have that mentality of getting rid of the idea of comparison and understanding that everyone genetically is made up differently, everyone anatomically is made up differently, and the best that I can bring, the best that you can bring is going to be different than any other person. During prep, you just need to think about you. We've said it before, this is a super fucking selfish sport. And to be successful, you need to be all in on everything you are doing. Every aspect of your life that you can control, you need to control. And that comes back to comparison. I feel like the biggest issue is people get so caught up in who's going to be at the show and what are they doing. If you're spending your time and energy thinking about who's going to be at the show and looking them up and what kind of training are they doing and what are they eating, you've already fucking lost, in my opinion. If you have the energy and time to dedicate to thinking about someone else and not pouring that into yourself, you've already lost because you're not dedicating that time to focusing on everything you can control. You just need to get that shit out of your head. I don't sit here and scroll on Instagram and think about how so-and-so looks better than me at X amount of weeks out. Like it doesn't matter. Everyone's rate of progress is different. Where someone's 11 weeks doesn't matter compared to your 11 weeks. Everyone's different. Every show is going to be different. The judges are going to have different views on who should win. You just need to control the shit that you can control in order to best set yourself up for success. I had a lot of fun answering these questions. Super happy that so many of you reached out with really awesome questions for me to go over. I just think it's really cool. Like I said before, I have so many people supporting me and so interested in this process and want to know more. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully I'll do this video again. And that's all I got, guys. Thanks for joining in.